this episode, we are going to explore a deceptively simple idea that has enormous impact in cloud security, which is the difference between default allow and default deny behavior. Many serious security incidents do not begin with a sophisticated attacker breaking through strong defenses. They begin with a configuration that quietly allowed access when it should have blocked it. Accidental exposure often happens not because someone wanted to make a system public, but because the system was permissive by default, or because an allow rule was broader than intended. Preventing this kind of exposure requires intentional design and continuous verification. The safest posture is one where access is denied unless explicitly permitted. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyber.author.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Default deny means that unless a rule clearly allows a specific action, the system blocks it. In contrast, default allow means that actions are permitted unless explicitly blocked. These two philosophies create very different risk profiles. In a default allow environment, you must predict and block every unwanted path, which is difficult because you may not even know all possible paths. In a default deny environment, you must deliberately open only the paths you intend to use. From a risk perspective, default deny reduces surprises because unexpected traffic or access attempts are rejected automatically. That simple inversion dramatically changes how mistakes behave. In cloud environments, default deny principles show up in network security rules, identity permissions, storage access controls, and even application logic. For example, a network security group may either allow all inbound traffic unless restricted, or deny all inbound traffic unless specific ports and sources are allowed. The latter approach is much safer because it forces administrators to define exactly which connections are required. If a new service is deployed and no rule exists for it, the system remains closed rather than unintentionally open. That behavior prevents accidental exposure during rapid changes. Safety becomes the baseline state instead of an optional layer. Explicit allow lists are the practical expression of default deny philosophy. An allow list defines which identities, addresses, or services are permitted, and everything else is rejected. Allow lists are precise, which reduces ambiguity in access decisions. For example, instead of allowing any internet address to connect to a management interface, you might allow only specific trusted network ranges. That explicit definition narrows exposure dramatically. The more precise the allow list, the smaller the attack surface. A common misconception is that default deny configurations are too restrictive and will constantly break legitimate workflows. In reality, the discomfort often comes from discovering how many unnecessary permissions were previously relied upon. When a system moves to default deny, it exposes hidden dependencies that were never documented. While this may create short-term friction, it leads to clearer architecture and better understanding of system interactions. Once legitimate paths are defined explicitly, operations become more predictable. Predictability is a security advantage. Identity and access management also benefits from default deny thinking. If users or service accounts receive broad roles by default, exposure becomes likely. Instead, new identities should start with no permissions and receive only what is justified. This prevents privilege creep, where access accumulates over time without review. Explicitly granting roles ensures that each permission reflects a conscious decision. The absence of permission becomes normal rather than exceptional. Storage services are particularly vulnerable to accidental exposure when default behaviors are misunderstood. Some cloud storage configurations allow public read access if a single setting is toggled incorrectly. Without verification, data can become accessible to the internet unintentionally. Default deny at the storage layer means that objects are private unless explicitly shared. Verification includes checking that no unintended public access settings exist. These checks protect against small misconfigurations that can have massive impact. Verification is the second major pillar of preventing accidental exposure, because even well-designed defaults can be overridden incorrectly. Configuration drift happens over time as changes accumulate. A rule that was once narrow may be expanded temporarily and never tightened again. Automated scanning and policy enforcement can detect when resources violate default deny expectations. Regular review ensures that explicit allow lists remain accurate and minimal. Trusting configuration without verification invites silent failure. Infrastructure as code, IAC, supports default deny by making configurations consistent and repeatable. When network rules and permissions are defined in code, they can be reviewed, versioned, and tested before deployment. This reduces the chance that ad hoc manual changes create exposure. Code-based definitions also allow automated validation against security policies. Instead of relying on memory or informal processes, the system enforces secure patterns systematically. Repeatability reinforces intentional design. Another area where default deny is critical is cross-account or cross-project access. In complex environments, different teams or business units may share infrastructure. Without strict boundaries, a permissive rule in one area can expose resources in another. Explicit allow lists clarify which accounts or identities may interact. This separation reduces the risk that internal complexity becomes external exposure. Boundaries remain intact even as the environment grows. Logging and alerting play a supporting role by revealing when denied actions occur. In a default deny system, denied attempts are expected and informative. Frequent denied requests from unknown sources may indicate scanning or reconnaissance. Observing denied actions helps validate that protective controls are functioning. It also provides insight into potential misconfigurations if legitimate traffic is unexpectedly blocked. Visibility strengthens confidence in the design. It is important to understand that default deny does not eliminate all risk by itself. It must be paired with thoughtful rule creation and regular maintenance. An overly broad allow rule can undermine the philosophy just as easily as a default allow configuration. The key difference is that default deny forces deliberate openness, making exposure more visible. Each open path should be traceable to a business need. Transparency reduces accidental sprawl. In development environments, there can be pressure to relax restrictions for speed. Temporary open rules may be added to resolve urgent issues. Without follow-up, those temporary allowances become permanent exposure. A disciplined approach includes documenting temporary changes and scheduling their removal. Default deny remains the standard even during rapid development cycles. Discipline prevents convenience from becoming vulnerability. Ultimately, preventing accidental exposure is about embracing the mindset that access should be earned, not assumed. Default deny ensures that new resources begin in a protected state. Explicit allow lists define narrow pathways aligned with purpose. Verification catches drift and unintended changes before they become public incidents. Together, these practices transform exposure control from reactive cleanup to proactive design. By consistently applying default deny principles, cloud environments remain resilient against both simple mistakes and opportunistic attackers.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.